Good morning, good afternoon. So welcome to the ADC podcast, Leaders in Payments and FinTech. So today I'm joined by Jaya, CEO of BCT Digital. She's calling in from Chennai in India. I'm based in London. My name is Mark Beresford. I'm a director here at Edgar, Dunn Company. Like Jaya, I've got 3 decades of experience of working in financial services, and I'm really delighted to invite Jaya to this podcast. We're going to be delving deep into the world of AI, artificial intelligence, and seeing how it's changing our lives, the way we work, and how we connect to different technologies. So, Jaya, maybe let's start off with an introduction. So, what is your role? What does your career look like in the last 3 decades?
So, thank you very much for having me here, Mark. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. And I'd like a 80,000 feet quick rundown on what brought me here. I started my career as an investment banker. Did my undergrad in computer engineering, did an MBA from Cornell, and did a CFA. Typical investment banking career. I was on the deal side, and I was handling a deal for multiple deals, and I got headhunted by Accenture. And I was part of the seeding team for Accenture in India. So there you saw massive growth from grounds up to 135,000 people within a short span of 4 years. I did go back into banking because I kind of felt that was more, getting back into the nuances of what's really going on from a banking ecosystem, because I think that's the nerve center for any country. I did join Standard Chartered Bank to head the technology and strategic transformation. And after having done all of that, I said, I need to give back something. And that started my entrepreneurial journey. And it was more about, I could see a lot of spaces out there which were not quite tapped by the current products out in the market. And risk and compliance is the fundamental fulcrum for any banking and financial institution. It also defines how you lend. It defines how you kind of do different functions. And the use of technology has come a long way. And, a piecemeal approach to the technology and kind of looking at force-fitting something won't work. So you look at it as technology agnostic and business first. With that mantra, we started the company about 11 years ago. And as a founder in the risk and compliance space, I'm happy to be one of the few female founders in this particular space.
And I think when we both started our careers three decades ago, like a lifetime ago, it was very male orientated. I think it's fair to say. How have you sort of evolved and coped with that, potentially gender bias particularly in IT, fintech and regtech? What sort of experiences have you found, and how would you teach younger girls, females joining the IT industry, financial services industry? What advice would you give them?
So I think when we started like 3 decades ago, I think it was a different field altogether. In investment banking, you didn't see a lot of women. There was, in fact, an article that said the only woman on 8 floors of Wall Street or something. They were doing a survey. So I was a very odd phenomena at that time. And, from growing from there, where we were pretty much used to being surrounded by men. They were our friends, they were our guides, they were our mentors, and it was okay to kind of be in that kind of an environment. And more as technology opened up, there were a lot of role models from the technology field. So I would actually separate financial services from tech, because tech had a lot more women and financial services, the traditional ones, did not. So it was kind of like a blend. When you kind of started off merging the two, you started seeing a lot more female role models kind of emerge. And I think from advice to young women, it's more stay the course, because it gets challenging. So it does not mean you quit. It means you stay put. And what we see in our industry is more the revolving door syndrome. Yeah, a lot of young women are joining the workforce, but they're leaving somewhere midway, and they're not making it all the way to the top. I think it's more about what you need at that stage. The third angle of it is like I would also explore financial services tech and entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is something that you don't see a lot of women in the deep tech domain, more so specifically in the areas that we're talking about. That has a lot of reasons. It could also be that, most of the funding and other sources come through in some form or fashion through an old boys network. And that is not something that you don't have an old girls network to say, pat it and then kind of take that forward. So I think that networking and the ability to kind of draw funds and the ability to kind of say it's okay, and it's the kind of like the network that you have really matters when you are an entrepreneur.
And being an entrepreneur in that environment, I mean, you have got a rich history and lots of awards associated with building, software solutions for fintech and regtech.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the underlying themes of the podcast today, I'd like to sort of delve into big data. And I think it's funny, really, it's kind of fallen out of fashion to talk about LLMs, large language models now. And I think you're dealing with a lot of unstructured data. Mm-hmm. And particularly with compliance, and you talked about lending and financial services and onboarding customers, and there are a lot of regulatory and compliance loopholes. Or no, it's probably the wrong phraseology. It's not loopholes, but it's keeping doing the right thing for your customers. Treating customers fairly, and you're providing technology solutions to that environment, to the financial services market. So really, can we sort of bridge the gap between big data and AI? How would you sort of summarize that?
So big data is more the source of data. What you do with that is the AI pattern matching, simply speaking. So big data is more about what we use in the realm of financial services, is that we go into the realm of what we didn't traditionally collect. Like in a bank, for example, you always had textbook data, you had your core banking related data, you had your loan origination related data, but you didn't compare and contrast with what is out in the market. Let me explain with an example. When you say diversion of funds, as an example, you're looking at fraud monitoring. So the traditional way of looking at data was always that, after it's left the bank, and then you go after collections, legal cases, and try to pull it back. Whereas if you had a real-time monitoring system that goes into the realm of big data, as soon as you set up a beneficiary, you can get up to 3,000 data points from the realm of big data that goes through an AI engine, which does your clustering, anomaly detection, link analysis, and all of that, does a pattern matching and tells you with a scoring engine that there is an 86.3% probability that this is indeed kind of diversion of funds, and you can stop a transaction from happening. So big data is about the source and AI is about the processing.
So proactive, it's more proactive.
Yeah. So this is more from a preventive lens rather than from a forensic lens, as we call it. Mm-hmm. So you prevent something from happening rather than look at it as a forensic data. What happened to it? You kind of prevent that from happening. And this extends to different transactions. It can reference to what you do with frauds. It can reference to what you do with advanced monitoring techniques. And I'm just giving you one example. It's more about the source of data. You go into the realm. You have so much data available today. And that data is simply noise when you don't get insights from it. So the insight component is more to do with pattern matching, to look at self-learning. In the past, when this particular pattern was there, this was indeed kind of like linked to a risky event, and how do you monitor that? Those are the elements where we bring in advanced AI techniques into it. And large language models is a part of it, but we do a lot of scoring. I mean, it's a financial institution based. So there's a lot of quant underpinning the LLM, which kind of gives you more accurate scoring on some of this data.
And I think, am I right in thinking that it's really, because there's so much data, you just can't throw people at it. AI is really helping, automate this and making it faster, because you're dealing with so much data.
Yeah.
It's just a question of you can't do it without AI.
Data is simply noise at the moment, because insights is what you need. And insights and more actionable insights is what you need. And that conversion from a lot of that data into actionable insights is something that AI does. But you can't do without the source, which is the big data. So both of them are kind of needed. It's more a cause and effect.
Well, why do you think it's AI is like it doesn't matter whether it's podcasts or conferences or industry events, AI just seems to be always being talked about. Is that partly because it's filtered down into people using ChatGPT and Gemini and Perplexity? Do you think more and more people are being exposed to it? People outside the IT industry, just general public, and therefore it seems to be being raised up in the consciousness of society. And is there kind of trying to, I think you said yourself, you've been doing this, machine learning and neural networks and big data. It's been going on for the last couple of decades, so it's not really new to you. But do you think it's because AI is at the top of mind and it's in the headlines? Do you think there's a kind of a mismatch?
Yeah. See, in lifetimes, there comes some inflection points where it changes the way that you look at things. Internet was one such way. People were using messaging before, and it was more academic labs that were using it, and it was more in terms of, official mail and things like that. It was being used. When it was opened out to the world, it became all pervasive, and you couldn't do without it or think of a world without it. That inflection point has happened with AI. It was with the industry practitioners like us. We were using predictive, we called it different things. We said, it's basically past predicts the future. How do you convert a gut feel to science? That's the fundamental two tenets that we operate out of. And we were using a lot of it. But it is when a common person feels the pervasiveness of that, which was opened up with ChatGPT-like tools, it becomes conversational. You go there and ask, here is my blood report. What do you think I have? From something that nobody does without today to kind of becoming something that's a commercial application. So AI is here to stay, and therefore there's a lot of conversation about it. And it's also about to me, AI is not about what a human can do. In that genesis, you look at it in terms of cost cutting, agentic AI, workflows, etc. But it's also going beyond the realm of what a human being cannot do. If you had 3,000 data points, Mark, you and I would be super confused. We wouldn't be able to draw any insights out of it. Whereas a machine actually takes all of that data and says, here's the pattern on it. What's an outlier? What is meaningless? Which of those variables are statistically significant? And it draws out clear insights that goes beyond the realm of human comprehension. So I think that's the power of AI, because it learns more, like how we learn from childhood to becoming a full-fledged adult. And we've been saying 3 decades of experience, which we claim. That is something that is embedded in the power of learning. It takes many decades of experience and says, when this happens, this is the more likelihood. And then it looks for more and more data, auto-learns, and therefore it is kind of something that's going to be something we all use. And therefore there's a lot more talk on it. And the talk could be on the cost effectiveness side, which is what most people are worried about and saying, oh my God, AI is here. So therefore, does it mean my jobs are going to be lost? It's just that you're going to be retraining yourself to do something different. Just because the internet came, we didn't lose jobs. We just learned how to use the internet to do our work better. And likewise, even for AI, if you're doing commoditized work, that's going to go. But instead of doing commoditized work, you're going to be doing something quite different. And I think that is the power of learning. How do you kind of stretch this engine and kind of get on top of it? To me, the way I look at AI is that it's an active machine and human collaboration, because machines provide you the data, the insights, the patterns, the power of computation, and all of that brings in to give you the insights. And a human being kind of contrasts that with strategic oversight, your judgment calls and things that are like that. And when they both work in tandem, you have a super powerful tool on hands. And that's why this is more important.
And you talked about that's fascinating. And I think really would like to pick up on the point you talked about. You said we're currently at an inflection point. I think that's what I heard. And when you talk about that inflection point, what does that mean for your clients? The financial services industry. What does that mean? Does that mean AI? Yeah, definitely AI is going to be part and parcel of a lot of products and solutions, particularly in reg tech. So can you expand on that inflection point?
Sure. There are a number of ways in which you look at it. I gave an example of fraud, so I'll give you a complete different example. So you even have now like ESG or climate as a key component of your actuarial risk calculations. So now when you use climate risk, you have a lot of those models, and most of them are dynamic models. So just because you had a weather pattern for a particular year, that's not going to be the same weather pattern for the next year. But we have, decades and if not hundreds of, years of data on weather patterns. So when you take that and model, and let's say I'm an insurer and I'm looking at, island countries, Jamaican, I'm insuring Jamaican countries. Just imagine how much that climate data and what you get from the sources of those data. And if you had AI patterns that said, based on this, every 10 years, you would have this type of a pattern, and this is what it gives you. You use the data, and then you can actually predict that there is going to be something that's occurring now. And that is based on a lots of years of learning on these voluminous data. And it tells you more accurately that you can kind of anticipate an event this year. And therefore, this is what goes into your actuarial calculations. Think about the power of how you use climate as just one variable. And you take that particular factor and have a very key input into your actuarial calculations. So that's a very different example I wanted to give from fraud, because that's something that's directly applicable, right? And those are the kind of insights that you would use. And it's also more about where data you think you don't have a lot of data points, then you look at industry benchmarks. You look at leading indicators. You look at commodity prices and say, this is where the market looks like. Therefore, there is going to be stress in the system. So it's more about how you use all those factors to draw relevance points in which you can have strategic insights. And one of the things that you also kind of in your introduction, the point on governance, it has this enormous influence on governance. So it's not something that it's a technology that not only looks at the lowest common denominator, it does. Because everybody is using ChatGPT to kind of say, I have a scratch, how do I kind of heal that? To kind of looking at governance-based decisions to say, I'm sitting on the board. And on a board, what are the things that I'm getting? What are the insights I need to be looking at? Am I missing something? Are there missing links? Are there kind of like next generation audit kind of information that I'm missing? Is, the financial parameters say something, whereas the stock obsolescence is going in a different direction. What am I missing? Is there something that I'm not getting? So from the board to the last person on the intern on your shop, everybody's using it. And therefore, it's going to change the way that we work.
Yeah. And And that's it. That's fascinating. That's talking about the weather and the influence on insurance. I totally get that. That makes perfect sense. And I'd like to change sort of tack just towards the tail end of the discussion. It's been fascinating. I want to build on that AI discussion and try and do a prediction, kind of crystal ball. And there's quite a few things being said about AI, right or wrong. I'm just interested in your view and the impact on jobs, there's no doubt there's going to make things quicker. It's going to automate. It's going to process greater number of data points. You talked about the 3,000 data points that you and I would take years to process and try and find a pattern, but the machines are doing it for you. But I like this sort of thought that actually, if you're not using AI to sort of supplement your job and your role and your career, if you're not using it and you're not part of it, then I think that's where it could be damaging. It's going to be career limiting. Yeah. I'm just interested to get your thoughts on that, and with your vast experience in this world, what are your predictions? Would you say in the next 5-10 years in a world of AI?
So I think we're at the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of evolution. We are looking at very minuscule AI use cases at the moment. AI is something that's just not a technology. It's an ecosystem, because for AI, you need vast amounts of data crunching, which means you need data centers. You need energy, alternative energy sources, because computation power drains a lot of energy. So it's therefore for the data centers and the alternate energy sources, you would be looking at a far larger infrastructure and an ecosystem. So we are just at the beginning, and we're going to see this influence of this technology for years to come. So it's from traditional jobs, it's going to just change the way we work. It's just because we use a mobile phone, and we're very comfortable with the mobile phone. So it does not mean it's replacing all jobs. It will replace some jobs. It will replace those jobs that are commoditized, like I said. It's more those jobs that, where anyway they were going to go through some alternate means. It's just accelerated. And then you would kind of cross-train and start using it as an extended pair of whatever you did, like your mobile phone, like the laptop, like everything else that you've been used to. This will be a technology that's here to stay, and it's all pervasive, that you stop noticing. When do you notice technology? When it stops working. So I think it's more a question of, make it a part of your day-to-day operations, and that's something that's here to stay. So if you think you're in a commoditized field, then it's time to cross-link before AI takes that job away.
Okay, that's interesting. And just to build on that, you talked about a tip of the iceberg. That implies that there's an end point. And I'm kind of looking at it, and from what I've read and seen, there isn't really an end point. It's going to evolve. And I think AI is evolving, and you talked about use cases. I think there's going to be more and more use cases, being more pervasive in the way we do our jobs. Would that be fair to say?
That's fair to say. We are just at the beginning. We are at the very beginning, as they say, and it's a very good place to start. But then we've got a long way to go. And in that time, it morphs quite a bit. Because the way that we were looking at AI originally is not the way we look even 3 months from now. Now, there's a lot of physical systems that are converted to virtual systems. So, for example, the aircraft design, that's something that takes years, could be done in, hours. So there is kind of like a lot of research that's going on in terms of how pervasive this AI is going to be and how it's fundamentally going to change the way that we look at things. What we had taken for granted so many years ago is not going to be the way. So it's something I said it's an inflection point because it's a fundamentally different way in which we do it. Not unlike the telephone, not unlike the internet, AI is here to stay. And therefore, if we need to kind of adapt to it, we need to do it now.
Okay, that's very good. Very good, strong advice there. Jaya, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I think it is a fascinating topic, and I'd love to talk to you in 5 years' time and see where and how it's evolved. I agree. I think you're right. I think a inflection point. It's got to be complementary to what we're doing. I really would like to thank your participation in the podcast today. I think it's fascinating, and I'd like to wrap things up now.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here. And in 5 years' time, we would be looking at a completely new mode of communication.
Yeah.
It
won't be on a podcast. It will be in some sort of virtual reality experience. Well, thank you, Jaya, and safe travels back to home after Chennai.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.